So, hello and welcome to my dear friend Lara Waldman. Hi, Lara.
Hi.
So happy to welcome you to the first Lead with Heart interview in this series. And for those of you who don't know Lara, I think a lot of you do. She's a healer, an author, a speaker, and she helps conscious leaders and heart-centered business owners to really embody their greatest gifts and live a life of true abundance. And Lara's written an amazing book, and she's worked a lot about when it comes to money and financial abundance, but it's really much, much, much deeper than that, of course. So welcome to this interview, Lara, and I would love to just dive into this topic because I felt guided to create this mastermind because I'm feeling called to really embrace more of the leader that I am. And even just saying that word sometimes still makes me cringe because I associate so many things with that word. But I would love to know what kind of leader you are. What kind of leader you are and what your intention is really when it comes to stepping into this role as a leader as well.
Good, juicy question. Well, as Karina knows, I've been on, it's a never-ending journey really of transformation and evolution into our role. You know, our role as a leader of your business. But for me, this has been really about the kind of leader I am, is the kind of leader that is trying to live as authentically and honestly as possible. So for me, this is about really having the courage to show up in all that I am and share all that I am. And this has been a lifelong journey, a focused 20-year journey. And I'm continuing to step more and more into that every day. And I guess it's about it feels like paving a new path, because I guess no one else has ever been me and no one else has ever been you. So it's the path to who I am. And for me, this has been if we imagine that there's just this new path you're trying to create, there's all these vines and twigs and there's the space that needs to be created. And for me, the clearing of the path to leadership is about clearing all the programs, the thoughts, the beliefs, the family programming, all the stuff from our past, all that stuff that gets put onto us when we're born and perhaps from lifetimes, if you believe in that are like covering up who we truly are. So for me, this path to leadership is actually the path to really knowing who I am, finding myself in the center of it, and then really, really having the courage to listen to what I'm being guided to create, to share, and who I am.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that really resonates with me too. And it's really about sharing also the journey, because it's not like we reach a certain point and then that's it. We're leading, right? And we don't have to worry about any of the stuff from before. It's more of that like circling back to things and old patterns coming up again, but maybe in a different way. And that kind of continuing, releasing and clearing. To create, and also it feels like we're part of this new movement and this big change on the earth at this time, and the things that are specific for us now that maybe wasn't a reality 50 or 100 or 200 years ago in the same way.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. We're in a very amazing time. We're so lucky to be in a space and live in a place where we can be ourselves, and we have a voice, and it's safe to do that now.
Yes. Although when we're being triggered, it can feel like it does not feel safe and it feels like we can't do it. But in reality, we just have all the old programming and the stories and the things that we carry to clear out, but actually we can step out, and it's amazing. I'm really grateful to be alive right now.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I say it's safe, but there's been times on this path of stepping up and stepping out and being more visible where I literally felt I was going to my death, because I thought if I come out and share myself and speak my voice, I'll be persecuted, I'll be taken down. And that was for me I had to do a lot of clearing around that. And that journey continues, but for me it's less, that there's less intensity of that fear now.
Yeah.
But there's always something new, right? There's always something new to discover and to sink into and to face on this journey.
Yes. And I think that's true for a lot of healers and intuitives and everyone who has some kind of memory of past lifetimes or who's doing that type of work. And I remember having that as well, about being visible, where it feels like we're going to die if we show up and share who we are. And so working through that until like the biggest part is released, so that we can actually just share what we're here to share and enjoy it as well. So it's not as heavy as it can be, and probably will be at some point. And I would love to know what your biggest challenges have been, because there are so many reasons why we resist doing this work and stepping up in that way as well, because it does require certain things as a leader of maybe a group or a movement that we may not be super comfortable with.
My challenges. Well, how long do you have? I suppose my challenges, they've all been around a similar core wound. And my 20-year journey, it's been like spiraling me in and around and down into this wound to really, to face myself, to know myself. And this is the challenge of feeling that who I am is good enough. Who I am is lovable. And one of my core wounds is feeling that somewhere in me there was something bad about me or wrong about me or too much, you're too much. So, and because of that, I left a part of myself. I pulled out a part of myself, and I was sort of more in the kind of channeling kind of healing energies, which was great. But I wasn't really fully embodied. And embodiment is a practice and a process. But now it's really been about having that who I am is enough. And actually who I am is all I have to be, and having the courage to share that, because it feels very, very vulnerable, as well as being very, very powerful. So there's a paradox of who we are is extraordinary power, and also intense vulnerability at the same time. It's really interesting. So there's about embracing our power and embracing my power and not being scared of it, and not I think I also thought that my power would scare other people. I know that's still something that can come up for me. It's like, whoa, if I really give the full force of Lara, will people be running a mile, right? And then the other one is the intense feeling of vulnerability, which is maybe at times feeling alone. Like feeling alone has been a real core wound for me too, because sometimes leadership can feel lonely, because you're not just following the mainstream path, and that can feel lonely. I'm not alone in truth, but there's a wound of feeling alone. So those have probably been my two big challenges in terms of leadership, and having to face that and go into it and have the courage to own it and show up in that.
Yeah, and you've done that so beautifully, and really listening to your inner guidance and giving yourself all this time to really go within and do your own inner healing in such a deep, profound way, I think is really super inspiring, because I think a lot of us receive messages that we should slow down and that we should, that it's time for us to really look inside and to peel away maybe the layers of old identities and who we wanted to be to please others and to fit in and not be too much or too sensitive or too whatever. And you really listen to that too. I find that super courageous, because you never know what's going to come up when you do stop, and who you're going to be on the other side. So it's kind of like saying yes to dying, and then seeing who you will emerge as if you do on the other side, right?
Oh yeah, that I forgot about that challenge. That's the one where I just stopped my business for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. It's like, it's about, for me, being a leader, a conscious leader anyways, is about leading from like alignment. And our alignment is also shifting and changing all the time too, but we have to be willing to shed old layers. And to do that, we really do need to stop and slow down and go in and listen. And that can feel really uncomfortable and scary, because we don't know, it does feel like death sometimes, like, because it's an ego death. It's a death of the old self, and then what you're being born and ready to be born into, which I've discovered is just more of yourself, the part of you that you've always known is there. But we have to release those old systems or thought patterns or belief patterns in order to find it. So, yeah,
that. And then, of course, I find also another thing that's challenging is it's one part, there's the work that we do, our sacred work, and sometimes we entangle things there and we become more and more clear and we're really on our path, and it can be really amazing to experience all the miracles that happen when we do that for ourselves and for our clients and for other people. But then there's also life in that too, right? With our families, maybe children, maybe partners, family like parents and siblings and old friends, the neighborhoods where we live. And it's also navigating, I guess, the new us, not just online where it's relatively easy because you can just shut down your computer and you don't have to deal with it if you don't want to. But in real life, it's also how do we integrate those changes and how do we live with the sometimes messiness of, well, being on a pretty unique path in one way. And for most of us, we're not surrounded by people who are on the similar path in our real life.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And I would say that's probably the area that in some ways I've always found the most challenging, because in my work and in the way probably why I do my work is that's where I can really express my true self. And yet in real life, doesn't always feel like there's the space for that. But that is not true, because we can still show up all the time. We still need to show up in who we are. And for me, that's probably been the area that's been most challenging in some ways. So, and allowing those dynamics and relationships to evolve and change. And it's not always comfortable. Like when you step up or move into a new part of yourself, it definitely affects your family, and everyone can feel it. Not everyone likes it either.
No.
So it's sort of sitting through the discomfort of transformation and change, which that's definitely not easy. But yeah, so my thing now with this idea of like really living a life of abundance is it's in every area of life. It's not just in your business. It's not just being a leader in your business. It's being the leader of your life and showing up in that everywhere. Ideally, we work towards that anyway.
Yeah, and that's true, because I find that everything that we learn in our business is really important to integrate that into our lives as well. And it's not going to look the same way, but the energy is the same, isn't it? Because I've had times when I've really embodied this energy of kind of like being the source somehow, like embodying that source energy and radiating that into every situation. So I'll do that in my business, and that's relatively easy. But then how do I do that when I'm at a parent-teacher meeting at the school, where emotions are really pretty running high? And that's been really interesting. I've been playing a lot with that, and it's really fascinating to see what happens when I embody that energy, because maybe I don't have to have tons of discussions or get people to agree with me on a topic. Like maybe it's just about radiating that presence and that energy, and things happen. So instead of trying to run around and try to fix everything, because often that's our reflex, right? To run around and help everyone and be everything to everyone, instead of really being in our own power. And then the impact we can have is much bigger, but it doesn't take work in that same way.
Yeah, that's it. It's just remembering, it's just reminding yourself of that in every moment.
Yes. So we could talk about the challenges for hours, I think, because there's so many, and there's so many nuances to that as well, I find. But what do you believe are the biggest gifts of embodying that leader energy and your power, and really embodying all of who you are in your life and in your business?
Wow. This is where I almost go into a place of no words, because it is very profound. It's the gift. I mean, the gold in it is, I feel like the words don't do it justice, but I'll do my best. So it's really coming home to who you are. And it's the feeling of being at home. It's the feeling of safety, of feeling like you're at home in your body, you're at home in your life, and you're at home on this earth. And from there, we tap into being and embodying and being the embodiment of creation. You are the source of creation from that place. And then it's just fun. And it's tapping into that magic, the magic of creation. And for me, it's like, I knew this as a little kid, you know, and it's just, I used to have so much fun tearing around. I didn't give a shit what people thought about me when I was little. And I used just to tear around, kind of just having an amazing time. I was really the leader of my little universe. And for me, it's coming back to that magic that I did have when I was younger. And then just the receiving. So you become this attracting energy, which allows you to receive things that you couldn't necessarily have dreamed up even, or they come from unexpected places. And so for me, that's, you could call magical manifestation, but it's really amazing things showing up, which could be in a friendship, or it could be an opportunity. It can just be in love, you know, feeling really loved and supported. For me, that's been a big piece, is feeling really loved and supported and letting that love and support in. But there's just so many, that's where it feels really magic, because just all of you you start attracting in amazing things that are actually more aligned with what you truly want than what your mind thought you wanted.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but it's just, it's for me, it's the feeling of being completely at peace and relaxed and at home.
Oh, I love that description. It's such a deep, felt sense of everything, isn't it? Like feeling even more deeply loved, and as if what we've created is amazing, but if we lost everything tomorrow, we'd still have that inside.
Yes, that's it, Karina, because that's what I've realized, especially with this 16-month break from my business, that I don't need it to be okay. I don't need it to be me. And that my foundations have got me, that with or without it, I'm okay, and I'm held and I'm loved and I'm safe. And so then, for example, my work, my business doesn't become the end all and be all of my identity. So then it's like I'm safe in life, I'm held in life, I'm loved in life, I've got whatever I need to be okay. And then the rest is like a bonus. So then then you don't have that kind of desperate clasping energy around anything, actually. And that then, once you relax and sink in, then you can really start attracting in, because that fear or that lack of scarcity can literally it pushes away the very thing that you want. So I'm aware that it's really easy to say all these things. The journey to that place is a journey. And it's an ongoing journey, of course, too. But yeah, I think that's fundamentally what we all want, well, at least the women that I talk to, what we want.
Yes, definitely. And when you feel it, you're like, this is what I wanted. No matter what goals I set for my life or for my business, this is what I wanted. And you feel it in your whole being. And that feeling, to me, it's worth everything. And it's not necessarily going to be the monthly money goal that you set, or the people you say you want to work with, or the creations, because once you have that inside, you can always find your way back. Because you are going to we all get distracted and we all disconnect at times, but it's like knowing how to come back to that place and to spend as much time as possible inside ourselves and at home, because then we can create with a lot more joy and detachment, because we know that if it doesn't work out, we're going to be fine anyway. So it's not that I have to prove that I'm worthy, or I have to show whoever that I can do this. It's really just about the joy of creating and being present.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not always easy to get to that place. That's where we already talked about the challenges already, but I just want people to know that it's not about, I think this is the journey home. It's the coming home. And I believe, at least this is what I see when I work with people's hearts and souls, is that's what we're all here to do, to remember who we are and tap into that creative source magic. But there's a journey to find that place again. So, and I do believe that that's part of our role as leaders, is that we're the shining, walking embodiment examples of that, of what's possible.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that's beautiful. Do you have like one last piece of like a wisdom or a message for someone who is in this right now, longing to embody more of the leader that they are, and maybe in the midst of the challenges?
For some reason, I started welling up with tears, because I just want to like just have my deepest compassion and empathy for the challenge of it. And it's not easy, and it never was going to be easy, but it can be easier. We can make it a lot easier on ourselves. So the challenge is sometimes, so my message is, use your inspirations or your goals as a motivator. For example, you might want to be speaking on stage, or you might want to write a book, or you might want to reach millions, or you might have a goal of a certain income. And all of that is great. And I do work with those intentions with people and myself as well. But know that they aren't the end results. They're not the end goal. Those things are actually inspiring you to take action, to actually show up in who you are and just to be yourself. So it's not about those external goals. So it's not about reaching anything outside of yourself. It's about embodying who you are now. And it's really hard for our mind, because our mind and our ego create separation, and it thinks of future, and it thinks of past, and it thinks of where I am now and where I want to be. But actually, the key to all of those things is coming home to yourself now and being in the present. And we know this, right? Probably, the power of now, we know all this. But it's really realizing that it's not in the future, that you're not actually really looking for that external goal. You're really looking to just come home to yourself now. And that is the key. That's what we have to come back to again and again and again and again. You start from now, you start from now, and you start from now. You take action from now, and you listen in the now, because the now is the place where you will know like what next step to take. So we can and I was like the worst for this, for future tripping. I got future tripping of like my big dreams and my big visions, and then when I get there, then I will But that's not how we manifest. So that's my big key, is come back to the now. Feel where you are now. Sink into the pain, sink into the ugly, sink into the shadows, sink into the beauty as well, and just let the now transform you. And then that's what will create the future that you desire.
Oh, that's beautiful, Lara, and it's so true. And that's the only place where we really are. So it's like, because if we can't enjoy, or at least be present with the now, if it's a hard place, right? If we're feeling pain, and I find that avoiding it is often making it worse. And when we actually sit in it, it can shift, and there's always a message for us. And sometimes we just want to crawl out of our now and be later on, but that actually prevents us from being later on. So really come back to where we are now.
Yeah, and that's an ongoing reminder practice, right?
Yes.
But that's really is. I just want to say one more thing, is like, this is part of what I learned, is I started reaching some of my goals. I started achieving what I wanted, and I was very shocked at how little I felt. I was like, what is going on? I didn't feel this elation and joy. And so that's when I realized there was something slightly misaligned. And I call it, it's like having an ego slam dunk. It's like being slammed back into yourself, because there's nowhere else we are to be but in ourselves now.
Yes, that's always where the gifts are, and the joy is, and the beauty is, and the love and everything we desire, right? And if we can enjoy that in this moment, we're going to be okay. And then it doesn't matter as much what we create on the outside. But from that place, it's like that fertile soil where we can create anything. And
exactly.
It's so interesting. And it's really about coming back to listening to the message and doing that one thing that you're being called to do. Not the other ones, but that one thing you're being called to do. And when we do that, it's like that the doors start to open and the next step appears. And I think we just have to do it in order to build our confidence and our trust that this is the way, our way.
Yeah. And it's always simple as well.
Yes.
Always simple. It's not complicated.
No. Oh, that's beautiful, Lara. And I would love to talk to you for a few more hours because there's so much gold in here. And I love all the wisdom that you've shared during our time together. And for anyone who wants to discover more about Lara and learn from her and hang out with her, I will leave the links under this video to her website. And she's also on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. So yeah, it's going to be amazing to see what comes out of this time for you in your life and in your business as well, because it's a huge transformation. So that's wonderful. I also wanted to let you all know that I am opening the doors to my Lead with Heart mastermind, and I will be inviting in some guest teachers, and we'll really be stepping into this energy of leadership. So power, boundaries, calling and support, all the key things that we need in order to truly thrive as the amazing and loving and magical leaders that we are. So it's creating a new movement of leaders that are really doing this with heart and with soul. And it's such a beautiful experience, something I've been massively challenged by, of course. So that's why I know it's the right time now. So if you want to find out more, there are links below as well. And do get in touch with me if you have any questions. And I would love to welcome you into this beautiful sacred circle of wise women. So thank you so much, Lara, for being here and for showing up. You're so amazing and inspiring, and you're really embodying that true leadership that I see. And I don't see a lot of people doing that in a way that really resonates with me, but I love how you do that with so much heart and in such an authentic and real way, not trying to show the surface of something that doesn't actually exist, but really showing up as you are in the messiness and in the immense power and beauty that you are as well.
Thank you, Karina. Thank you so much.
So thank you, and thank you to everyone watching us, and have a beautiful and magical day. Bye.